Welcome to Comfy Cozy Up. And you know, in a disappointed week, let's talk about the disappointing booker. So I'm going to start out by saying this is my opinion. If you love these books, if you love this here booker, don't take it offense. It's my opinion. So I'm going to start off by saying this here booker was disappointing. I have been following the booker probably since 2012, way before this channel. And I've also been reading the shortlist, at least completing the shortlist. I would say before this channel actually. Oops. My phone dropped. Before this channel actually. And I would say I've enjoyed the shortlist. There's always one or two books that I didn't love per se, but I still can say I felt good about the books, even though they weren't my favorite. There's always books that I felt were competition, that was like, oh, this is a tough list. Oh, that I could just see at least 3 books that could win easily. That's how much I was enjoying the list. This year, I can't say that. And at first I thought I was going to say it was the judges solely. Like maybe the judge selection this year was just, that's the cause of it. But I can't even say that either completely. I'm not going to say 100%. I feel like the books this year and the last year, there's not a lot of great books that I felt came out where people are excited and talking about. I normally don't follow new releases as much, but I would see it online. I would see people talking about, oh, this book is really good, you should read this. I would see a lot of that. And this year I have not seen people really excited as much for the books that's being released. I feel like a lot of people like myself are reading older release backlist books. And so maybe the picking wasn't that great for them, but nevertheless, I think there's that idea of creative writing, but it needs to be a balance between creative writing and an actual storyline that is going to keep the reader engaged. I was bored. This year's list was boring. I can't even, I literally don't know how I completed some of these books. I really don't know how I did, but because I was so committed to finishing the books, to talk about it, I pushed through when in reality a lot of these books would have been DNF. Absolutely. So for the top 6, I only completed 5. Why? Because the last book is not released here. I cannot find it here. And it has to be internationally sent to me. The coverage on the international shipping costs more than a book. And because how I felt about the list, I was not willing to sacrifice that kind of money for a book that probably going to disappoint me like everything else. So here we go. So we're only going to talk about 5. And because the one that's going to win is clearly in this 5. We'll talk about it. So I'm going to go from the least to the ones that I actually enjoyed. So, Orbital, Samantha Harvey. I never knew a book this small, that is short, would bore me so much. I wanted to love this book because it had the potential, because the writing wasn't bad, but I was like, how did this get on the list? And then when I think of my friends didn't even make the top 6, but this made it, frustrated me. No, absolutely not. This is a no for me. Then we have Held. Now, Anne Michael was creative with the writing in this. I would say the writing in this is absolutely creative, and I would say I would give her some credit for that because the writing style was creative. But it was so creative that at times I was lost. I was like, okay, let me bring this back again. It's a sense of poetry, but it's like written in a way that sometimes if you are not completely engaged, you will miss the whole point of a section. You will miss when a different character is in there. And because of that, it was like I couldn't enjoy it as much because the writing style was too difficult for me to really enjoy this. I think this is one of those books that you kind of have to read it with someone else to really like fully understand how the story is being told. Now, I do get the message. But it's how it's delivered is like still a little shaky for me. But I didn't knock it. I see why people enjoy this. Creation Lake. Lord Jesus. Rachel. Like, really, Rachel? How do you take a spy book that has such hype? Like, it's a spy book. She's a spy. She's in the trenches. She's in with her subjects. And still find a way to drag it. I was like, this didn't even need to be that long at this point. And it's like, oh yeah, I get your point. I get what you're going at. I get the message. But the delivery, no. And the book that made me smile the entire time, because I love this book. And this was The Safekeeper. I am a fan of this one. Now this one, I was like, thank God. Yes! Yes! A book that I could ride with. A book that I would read again. That's how I felt about this one. I just love the delivery. I love the storyline. I love that change, and when you realize one character's objective and why that one character felt that way. I love the title and how fitting the title is for this storyline. I love the ending. I was like, oh yes. This was a feel-good book too. This was a feel-good book where I feel like bookers don't like feel-good books. Yeah, they love that ending that's gonna just break your heart. So, or that ending that got you screaming. So I'm not sure this is. I really can't see them picking this one either. I just feel like this one will win. But I love it. This was a love book for me. Like, I was in love with this book. Still in love with this book out of the list, you know. And then we have the infamous James. Now, we are going to just be honest. And I'm going to tell you my take. Now, I am not the biggest fan of homage. Books that are a homage or a retelling. When it comes to award, because I feel like the writer has a palette. They started with a palette, you know. It is not from scratch per se. They have an idea. And because of that, sometimes I'm like, I don't know about this. You know, last year I talked about this one particular book that people were mad at me about. I felt what I felt. So this one I enjoyed. I think the writing is absolutely fantastic. I like the adventure it takes you on. I like the fist pumping moment. I like the fact that yes, it's a retelling, but it's filling the blanks. And he was creative in filling the blanks to make this book his own. Now, when I read this way before the book was even announced. I read this and actually read the original, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. So I knew what I was walking into when I read that and then read this after. And I think this was like a redemption book. I felt like it was a redemption because that original book got me my feelings. Y'all saw the review. I did. It is still being recently picked up traction because of the booker. However, this is a winner. This is this year's Booker winner. I can actually say it with my whole chest because I don't see how any book is going to beat this book. But I also feel like it's not fair for Percival Everett, because this is the second book I've read from him that made a Booker list. He wrote The Tree. I absolutely love it the year that came out. It was definitely one of my favorite on the list. And I feel like he's a good writer. He has other books. But I feel like it wasn't fair. I feel like it's not fair for him. I think he needed a strong competition. And I don't think he had a strong competition in this list. So it's almost like, here, sir. Here, sir. And I can't see them not picking this book. I'll be absolutely shocked, and I'll probably laugh, because how any of these other books can surpass this. I don't see it. And although in retrospect it is a retelling, it's not my favorite. Retelling is not my favorite for book awards. It's just not. I still feel like because of what was in the mix, he stand tall. So there you go, my prediction. The book that's gonna win. So with that said, I am glad I'm done with this year's list. And I hope, I hope somebody was in love with these, because it wasn't me. But if you read the list, let know, chime in down the bottom. If you disagree with me, I'd love to know why as well. You know, I'm here for the comments. I'm here for the discussion. It is opinion. I am pretty sure there are other people that might feel differently, because some people might love these books. But I have to say, for me personally, this year Booker was the worst. I could say that. Alright guys, so I'm gonna end this video here, and I will see you in the next, when we have the announcement in I think this Tuesday, the 12th. I think that's the announcement day, and I'll give you my reaction. Yeah, I'll give you my reaction. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next one. Alright, bye.